Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, new customers, when you sign up using promo code DNVR, you can make any $5 bet on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 in free bets if that wins, only with code DNVR and only with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. I am Patrick Lyons.
And I'm Susie Hunter. Patrick, how was your weekend? Very eventful, it seems like. Let me answer the question for you.
It was quite eventful. Not as eventful as your team going to the Super Bowl, which is nice.
What a time to be Susie Hunter, but we can talk about that later.
We've got more to talk about, don't we?
We actually have very relevant things to talk about because
more Rockies news than ever.
You had a conversation with Rockies owner Dick Monfort that everyone is talking about. Like, this is being talked about on all the networks. It is viral on Twitter. It was a lot.
It was a lot. I don't really know where to start exactly. Sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time, and those things lined up. If you take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves.
You always say that.
See how that ends up working out. But no, this was a pretty cool event that I've been going to the last couple years up in Greeley, the Friends of Baseball. They raise money for the community up there in youth sports in Weld County. Mm-hmm. And they have the Breakfast of Champions, as they call it. And that was a place where, ahead of the 2020 season, Dick Monfort said, hey, I think we got about a 94-win team. Had he said this the year prior, after they had come off back-to-back, winning seasons, had challenged for the Dodgers for the NL West, that would have made sense. But after the 2019 season, there definitely was somewhat of a downswing, and there weren't a lot of moves that were made in the offseason.
And of course, no one had a 94-win season in 2020.
That's right, yeah. And so he stayed away for a couple years, came back, and talked about there being four prospects in the top 100, which is great. It's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
It was definitely something in the letter that went out to season ticket holders, which, is kind of funky that you sort of have to discuss your prospects maybe more so than your actual on-field big league talent. But that was the case.
That's kind of where we're at right now, though.
It is. Yeah, it is. And again, it is very exciting. He thought maybe there could be about 15 names. He later did sort of say, okay, maybe about 10 names should be in the top 100, which I don't know if that's ever happened before. That would certainly be up there towards a record. I think 8 was the most this year.
That would be very impressive.
Yeah.
Who was 8 this year?
I can't remember what team it was exactly. Maybe it might have been Tampa Bay. But again,
why wouldn't it be?
A couple teams had 7, but again, to be in the top 100 these are players with really high ceilings. These are going to be players that very well are going to have likely like an all-star appearance in their future. If you're not a top 100 guy, you can still be a perennial all-star. I mean, Trevor Story pretty much did it kind of on the outside. Mm-hmm. But he said that, and then also added that, I think we can be a 500 club.
That is the quote that everyone has latched onto.
Yes.
This could be a 500 club.
Yes, which I only interpreted it as, and there were a lot of interesting interpretations or interpolations, depending on your vocabulary. But I was just surprised because I just don't see this current roster as it is playing 500 baseball. Now, if everything were to go right, I think they could be close. I think they probably could be. Mm-hmm. But how many seasons or how many teams can you point to and say, actually, everything did go right? Everything did go really well.
Mm-hmm. Nothing ever all goes right.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I think
it's not how it works. That's not baseball.
Yeah, that's true. In 2007, I don't think it all worked out well. I mean, they were sitting back of the only wild card at that time. Mm-hmm. By 5 games or so with 2 weeks left to play. And it was really just a matter of all the right teams losing and them winning out. And they did that. And so, again, you tip your cap to them for that. But nevertheless, that was really surprising, and just put it out there with no comment. And a lot of people said, yeah, they're not going to be 500, especially with their lack of moves that they had made in the offseason. One real true free agent. They signed 2. But Jose Urena was a re-sign.
Yeah.
They did make a couple trades for players, and we know Connor Siebold was a guy that they just got a week or so ago. So they got some big league pieces, but not the kind of, roster changing pieces that gets you to 500. So there was that. And then there's also some people, kind of their comment was this is the confidence that you have. Are you proud of this? That's a good thing?
Yeah. That's definitely one of those statements where it's okay, in a good way or a bad way?
Right.
So yeah, it really took off. How did you interpret it when you first heard it? Because you actually heard the tone of voice and and all the other context.
There was a little smattering in the crowd at the initial comment that we can be a 500 club, of people kind of really being, surprised at that. Again, I think just looking at the roster, what it is, and knowing who's in their division. Now, I'll say this: one of the things that Monfort said in our nearly 1 hour conversation was that there's a balanced schedule. So now they play the Dodgers less, Giants, who always seem to have the Rockies number. They play them less, Diamondbacks, which is probably a good thing right now.
Yeah.
They are improving.
Yeah.
Monfort did acknowledge that the Diamondbacks, are getting a lot better. They're a step ahead. Bill Schmidt has even said that this past offseason. And then the Padres.
Yeah, I want to talk about what he said about the Padres because he had stuff to say.
Yeah. So everyone in the division is obviously going to be, a challenge. And now the schedule's more balanced. So they're going to play other teams. But the Yankees will come to town now. So, careful what you wish for. I mean, to each his own. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, the comments about the Padres were interesting. He actually called out a player by name, sort of saying, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" And I had. No one else did in our group, but I had. I didn't know where this player was up to, but he's on the Padres. I thought he was with another organization at the time, which he was. That's when I at first kind of caught a glimpse of him. But kind of pointing out that hey, this is a guy that's on their roster that might be in line for a starting position. That's not necessarily a championship quality club. So I think he very much has the take of some folks who, if you can be kind of a purple tinted sunglasses type of homer and go, hey, I'm tired of hearing about the Padres. Just because if you win the offseason doesn't mean, you're going to win the World Series. No, absolutely not. And just because you lose, I would say the Dodgers have lost the offseason, right? I mean, look at all the guys that are playing elsewhere and look at who they brought in, but they're still going to be there at the end.
Yeah, I'm assuming they will be there at the end.
Sure.
Because I always say it, the Dodgers just always have something up their sleeves.
Oh, they do.
Always.
They absolutely do. Obviously, the Miguel Rojas trade, which I'm not sure if we might have briefly mentioned that, but that was a nice little pickup from the Marlins for shortstop. So, the Padres are kind of like the darlings of MLB in a lot of ways, and they got Juan Soto. But, he did point out that, sure, Darvish, Snell, Musgrove, that's a formidable top three. Is it as good as the Rockies' top three? I don't think Dick was actually saying that much. But then he said, kind of every spot after that, fourth, fifth in the rotation, guys like Nick Martinez, who they've got. There's just as many question marks for the Padres as there might be for the Rockies. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, he did also get into some financial things, which I thought was super interesting. Because again, he's a part of that on the owner's side as far as negotiating the CBA and discussing the fact that that the Padres they kind of did something different in their market with again bringing in all these players, but also raising their prices, and they got a great response from Padres fans. They're still going out to games. Probably because they really like the product.
How much did they raise prices, and when did they raise prices?
I'm not sure. I guess it's maybe it's happened over time, or maybe it just happened this offseason. I'm not sure. That hasn't been like one of those major nationwide stories, that somebody picks up on and it snowballs and it grows. So I'm not sure how much they've done that just yet. Californians, they were paying a 15% income tax. So I guess there's more money there to spend and go around. Their TV deal, I don't think is as large as the Rockies, but nevertheless, the Padres are able to get more money from their fans.
Well,
and that's
their TV deal might not exist in a few weeks. That's the other thing.
This is true. This is right. That would be maybe an advantage that the Rockies have, or a concern that they don't necessarily have. So I think with one of the things that Monfort was trying to point out was he doesn't want to raise ticket prices for his fans. I mean, someone even came up to him. He was very cordial. He was very nice with his time. Signed autographs for kids. So what's your name? And wrote the kid's name on the ball.
How many people were at this event?
That's a good question. I didn't necessarily take a head count. I'd say maybe 300. It's an event that there used to be, you know, a lot more at, and I guess just over time, it's kind of shrunk. Even though, again,
it's still a really big turnout for any event.
8 a.m. on a Saturday in Greeley.
Yeah, I don't do anything at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, please.
And you don't do anything in Greeley. So
I never have.
it's $20 to get in too. On top of that, and you know, getting some raffle tickets to win some cool prizes for a great cause.
For a great cause.
And they had Hall of Famer Tim Raines there. Darryl Strawberry will be there next year.
Ooh.
So that's kind of a neat one. They were able to announce that
maybe
early.
Maybe I'll go next year.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
I mean, you might get to talk to Dick Monfort. Well,
does he go?
Maybe not
does he
again.
go every year?
No. 2020 was the last time that he was at one of those, and so he likes showing up and supporting his community when he can. But yeah, like I said, he was signing autographs, which was nice, and you know, people came up and say, hey Dick, please don't raise my ticket prices. You know, again,
people said that.
Sure, yeah, and he doesn't want to. Like,
yeah,
you get that part of business, but you know, there's kind of a balance where if you have a better product on the field and you do have to raise your ticket prices, people are going to be okay with that. Now that will push a sector of fans out, or it might just say, now you're only going to maybe 2 games a year or just 1, right? You know, he's proud of the fact that, you know, if you include the rock pile in all the stadium seats, you know, they're towards the cheapest in all of Major League Baseball. You take the rock pile out, they're still in the 20s.
Yeah.
So, but I think ultimately fans will come out if you have a really great product. And I think that maybe should be more of the focus than, well, let's do everything we can to not raise prices. Let's do everything we can to try to have a winning team.
Yeah. And, you know, the product, whether or not it actually turns out to be a 500 team, that's another thing. Right. But, you know, we know, and people who listen to the show know, that the prospects and looking towards the future, that is so what we're focused on right now, because that is when things are going to be good, when all these prospects come to fruition. But yeah, it's kind of hard to see that. It would be hard for fans to pay higher prices to not see the results yet. Right.
Yeah, you sort of have to wait for that to happen. And yeah, there are some ways away. Monfort loves Ezekiel Tovar.
Yes.
Big fan of Tovar.
And Brenton Doyle.
And Brenton Doyle was another one.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah,
surprised.
He'll be interesting. You know, he was only in AAA for a very brief amount of time, similar to Tolia. Tolia, of course, did still have a month with the Rockies. Tovar was just there for a moment before finishing up the final week plus with the Rockies. Doyle didn't get that opportunity, but Doyle is a player that, I mean, there's been buzz about him. He's got these 5 tools. He does have flaws, but you know, he can go and get it out in center field. So, you know, it's going to be helpful if you've got that many outfielders. That was another element too that Monfort opened up on as far as Brandon Nimmo. The biggest thing I think was just was financially. You know, I think, you know, going into the offseason, it seemed like maybe they would make a play for him. That does mean now you're paying big money to 2 outfielders. We understand, you know, kid from Wyoming, a guy that they really had wanted to draft in 2011.
A local guy.
An
Everyone's
actual
local.
I know he's out of state, but he's actually local. That's about as close as we can come. If you at least border Colorado, we're okay with calling you a local kid. Chris Bryant, maybe not so much, but you understand, you know, where the Nimmo piece comes from.
Yeah.
But then you see the price tag. You know that the Mets are going to be in on him. They did pay a pretty penny.
It's hard to compete financially with the Mets.
Uncle Steve's got the money,
and he is just spending it erratically.
Yes, and Uncle Dick, he's a little more conservative.
Yes.
He is.
He's the uncle who gives you a savings bond, not a $100 bill.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Hold on to this until you're 18, and you can buy your first used car with it. I think we all
I'm
have
actually very happy
we all
with
have that
this
story.
analogy.
Yeah, I mean, we all have that story. That's how we got ours. We cashed in those bonds from our christening or what have you.
Oh my gosh, I have so many bonds that I've never cashed in.
There you go. You could buy a really nice...
They're like 1,000,000 years old.
You could buy a nice Toyota Camry from like the late 90s with that if you decide to cash in. But, you know, he likes Doyle, but talked about, again, if you go ahead and acquire a player like Brandon Nimmo, then you're gonna be blocking a lot of those young players, and that's what they don't want to do. That's what Bill Schmidt said. He feels there's 3 center fielders right now in the organization between Doyle, Montgomery, who's on the way, and he wants Zach Veen to be a center fielder. He did acknowledge the fact that the organization thinks he's going to be more of a corner outfielder, and I think he will be too. But again, if you could be a Gold Glove, I mean, look at a guy like Mookie Betts. You throw him in center field, you're going to feel confident in him in center. But if he's in right, well, then now you got yourself a Gold Glover there. So I think that's a perfectly fitting situation for the future of the franchise. But you got a ways to go.
ways to go.
And people aren't happy about that. And
people aren't happy about it. And it's like, we get that, the prospects are coming up. So why would we spend more than the little amount that the Rockies have spent this offseason?
Sure.
When we have these things coming up and we don't want to block all that talent.
Yeah. You'd have to get really creative, and maybe they will here in the next year. But really the creativity, and I put quotations around that, and we've been saying it for a while. The creativity was in 2022 and in 2021, acknowledging that this was not a team that you were going to get a postseason contender out of over the course of the next 3 or 4 seasons. And that was absolutely true. And instead of trying to get as many pieces as you can to either try to expedite this process of building for the future, they just sat back and said, well, we don't want to upset the fans, and the fans aren't going to pay the prices. And again, you understand, he does not like the word rebuild.
Yeah,
that is a bad word.
We know that he doesn't like the concept of rebuilding because we don't see those crashes like other teams do.
They stay right in the middle, which
but he said, direct quote, I hate the word rebuilding.
Quote, no, I said, look, we're talking about rebuilding, and he just jumped in and said, I hate that word. I hate that word. You know what I don't hate? The corner of Colfax in York. That is where the DNVR bar is.
That's not a quote from Dick Monfort, right?
No, it is not.
Okay.
I overheard it, and he was standing in the corner. He said, the DNVR bar is fantastic. So I'm not sure who said it, so I can only say it's alleged. But no, if you are a diehard, you get 15% off all your drinks, all your food that you're here. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. And if you want to pick up the tab, I mean, everyone in your party, why not? Boom, 15% off on that, 20% off all shirts. We got a Nuggets party bus coming up here early in February 4th, I want to say. Boom.
That's soon.
That's 20% off you're going to get at dnvrlocker.com. A new shirt each and every year that your diehard membership continues. Can't beat that. Extra raffle tickets at all the watch parties. It's going to be great. I know we haven't really made any plans yet. We still got 2 weeks, but there's probably plans going on behind the scenes. We just might not know about it. Super Bowl 57. That'll be it. And DraftKings Sportsbook is the way to go. Counting down the battle in Arizona.
Who is more excited for Super Bowl 57 than this girl right here?
Everyone in Kansas City? I don't know. This is like their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. So
you know what? No one is as passionate as the Philly fans.
This is true.
No matter what. The Eagles could go to the Super Bowl every year, and it would be that messy every year.
I've never seen a drum of KY jelly anywhere in and around Kansas City. So that lets you know about the passion, because you don't have to slather up the poles in Kansas City.
I don't think that's what they use in Philly. Well,
in Philadelphia, there were drums sent to Philadelphia during the World Series. You remember this? There's drums of KY jelly that was shipped.
Because I know the police use Crisco.
Yeah. Well, KY was trying to get in their product, push it, but they've never sent any to Kansas City.
I totally missed this. They've never needed to, because maybe those fans don't care.
If you are in Philadelphia right now, or if you have a picture of yourself next to one of those drums, please send it in. And if you're a new customer, guess what? We'll hook you up with a nice deal. All you got to do is sign up to DraftKings Sportsbook using code DNVR, and you place a $5 bet on Super Bowl 57. You got 2 weeks to do it. When that bad boy hits, boom, $200 in free bets instantly from DraftKings Sportsbook. They got the stepped-up same-game parlays, so if you want to do all kinds of stuff with the coin toss, I mean, the prop bets are going to be crazy. Link all of those things up, and it's going to be fantastic, up to 100% boost on that. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Again, use promo code DNVR. New customers bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Do you have a pick of the week?
With code DNVR. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. It's probably a good thing that Cincinnati didn't get in.
Wow, what is this Ohio snubbing happening right now?
That's probably important that that's the case. That's it.
Are you picking of the week? I didn't mean to interrupt you finishing up. I was getting excited because I was like, ooh, are we picking a DraftKings pick of the week?
Yes, and they've got a nice DraftKings special right there on the main page. It's the way to go. Defense wins championships. We know that. Will either team's defense or special teams, that's where you had me won, or special teams make a big play in Super Bowl 57. Either defense or special teams scores a touchdown. Yeah, plus 275. Take that.
Nice.
Take that. It's almost always special teams will get something going in there.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the numbers exactly, but it feels at least 50% of Super Bowls, you've got one or more of those things happen. If not both of them, you could probably even bet on both of them. But I'm going to go with my DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week. Defense wins championships. Defense or special teams scores a touchdown in Super Bowl 57. Either side, Kansas City or Philadelphia, plus 275. Lock that bad boy in.
That's a fun little bet going there.
That's juicy. Let's look at some of these comments.
Juicy.
Because we've got plenty of folks jumping in.
Yeah, we actually do have such an active chat
commenting,
today.
and we want to give some shout outs. Junior G Martinez says these are top prospects that he will trade away. Rockies actually don't trade their prospects at all.
The Rockies
That's kind of a problem.
Are hoarders.
They are. Your prospects until they become suspects. And then if you hold on to them too long, they kind of lose some of their cachet. In fact, go back and look at the trades that Jeff Bryant made in 2017 and 2018 at the trade deadline. None of those guys really became anything. I mean, the Pat Neshek deal, J.D. Hammer did debut with the Phillies, came back to the organization, the Rockies, last year on a minor league deal and was with Albuquerque. But other than that, Pedro Gonzalez, did you see him with Texas when they got Jonathan Lucroy? No, so they might need to trade more of them. They might need to be a little more aggressive on the trade front with more of those.
What else do we have?
Yeah, Tiff, what are some other good ones that jump out at you exactly?
Other teams strive to win World Series and have not tried to be 500.
Sell the team already or promote a AAA team to take their place.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. It's not that they strive to be 500. I don't know that they strive enough to be a World Series type of contender. You got to break a couple eggs in doing that. And Monfort, he loves Bill Schmidt, loves the loyalty that Schmidt has. He is a Rockies lifer. One of the things that he said that, again, I'm only interpreting from his comments is, we talked about dream general manager scenarios, right? And there's a lot of big name guys that they would more likely than not stay away from a small market club like the Rockies. But some young folks, right, men or women, from Tampa Bay or Houston, you say, let's get them in there. They're hungry. They might be too hungry because, as was kind of mentioned or alluded to, those folks, they want to make their mark as a general manager for a small market club, only to move on to a more larger market club, leave the Rockies in the dust.
They're not in it for the long term.
And Bill Schmidt is. Yeah. Bill Schmidt's a loyalty guy. So you see that loyalty.
That's a point that I have not heard before. This is interesting.
So you're going to have to, make some trades. That Brendan Rodgers deal, which, that it didn't get very far. It was interesting. Cabrera for Rodgers. It didn't get very far. It wasn't anything that, Dick Monfort kind of shot down. It was really just in the early part of the conversation. But that's the kind of deal where you go, hey, you have to trade. You have to give a little to get some. Yep. So, giving away a guy who's been with your organization since they were in high school since 2015, almost a decade. But again, if you want to win a championship and if you can recognize, we don't have as much starting pitching, it's much further away. They're a lot younger starting pitchers. The bats are a lot closer to the big leagues. You have to make a difficult choice like that. And the Rockies, err on the side of that loyalty. And so it's going to be hard to make those larger moves to go all in to try to win that World Series. And again, going back to that deadline in 2017 and 2018, They took the Dodgers to the brink, and they didn't do it. Who did they bring in? Drew Butera, backup catcher. Sung-Hwan Oh was great. They liked the fact that he had another year on his deal, and they coaxed Matt Holliday out of retirement. Okay, it's a nice name.
What a year that was.
But yeah, but who else was out there that you could have acquired that really could have, Rodgers for JT Realmuto was one of those in and around that timeline. So that was kind of wild. Where are the Rockies' top prospects rated as far as Baseball America goes? 4 guys right now in the top 100 on MLB Pipeline. It's the same 4 guys that are in the top 100. So that's really strong. And again, top 100 is guys that are going to be, more elite or more driven to possibly becoming all-stars. But there's plenty of other guys in the organizations that are going to be good fillers, or you might get an all-star appearance out of them. So really, when you see the farm system rankings, those are the big ones. The farm system rankings to see where the Rockies are at compared, because the guys at the top of the list, the top 4, they're going to do a lot of heavy lifting. But if there's no depth, right? If you've traded everybody else away, or there's a lot of question marks about the rest of the organization, you're not going to be featured quite as high. And I think the Rockies are going to be high because they have a lot of depth. Only with the 4 maybe true superstars right now, but that can change because Tovar was not one of those guys this time last year, and he made a big jump.
Yeah, that is a good point. So yeah, I know he mentioned the top prospects and how we should have even had more guys on that list of top prospects. How is he feeling about the minor league system as a whole?
Well, he's very happy with the farm system in general. Chris Forbes doing a really nice job. He did talk briefly about analytics, saying there's probably about 7 or 8 right now working with the team. Some from home, some at the ballpark. But I think he's happy in general. Did trot out the fact that the Rockies did have the second best winning percentage in the minor leagues. Which again, what does that mean for the Rockies? What does that mean for Major League Baseball? Nothing. But it does say like, hey, things are pointing in the right direction. That 17-18 squad, they were boosted a lot by a 2013 Asheville Tourist squad that won the South Atlantic League. And that core of guys were kind of used to winning, and they brought that with them everywhere they went.
And that's a good energy.
Exactly. That's the energy that they kind of want now. Say, hey, let's see if we can try to win more ball games rather than just develop players or have them go out there and figure things out, make mistakes. That's still going to happen. You still want that to happen, but actually let's put a little bit more emphasis on winning. And since Bill Schmidt has taken over, they've actually done that a lot. So I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, and you know what? I like that. I do always believe very strongly in, winning breeds more winning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These guys are just down there in the minors winning games.
Matthew points out, wow, someone doesn't like the term of rebuild. Sounds like another Denver franchise in the Broncos, which has done great. Yeah, well, I don't know if the Broncos necessarily rebuild. I mean, I guess they're always rebuilding if they're not winning the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
I almost feel like in a rebuild in football, you're rebuilding something very quickly, and you can have something quickly. Whereas baseball, it just takes longer to rebuild.
That is so true.
To rebuild, it's a full step backwards. Whereas I feel like in the NFL, you're just moving a bunch of pieces around, and you go, okay, now how do these blocks look? Is this a better foundation? Oh, it is. In baseball, it just takes a lot longer to possibly do that. So he doesn't like that word. He said point blank, we will never tank. We will never do that. He did have a long answer, and I did almost want to ask sort of, more why not. I mean, he did explain about, fans not showing up and not being proud of your product, but that is one of the few strategies the Rockies have never tried. And we are at the point here at year 30 that, okay, we're going to have to wait until 2025, 2026, 2027 to see what this next core of prospects do. If they don't succeed, if that doesn't work, and I understand it's a smaller sample size as far as one crop of prospects. You have to consider just about everything. If you want to win a World Series, you have to say, well, what haven't we done that if we did this, it could give us a chance? We could fall flat on our face. Monfort did mention the Kansas City Royals. He didn't say they were tanking in the 2000s. In fact, he point blank said that they weren't. And they weren't. They just sucked. They lost 100 games, 4 to 5 seasons. And they had all these top prospects and a good farm system. And it didn't finally come to fruition until 2015. And now we're 8 years down the line, and they still stink. So maybe it worked, maybe it didn't for them, but it's better than what they've been trying to do. It's something. It is something, or whatever the next big strategy is. I still think you can tank, even with the draft lottery.
But the risk, I guess, is like the relationship between the Rockies product and the fan base right now is so strained. Ever since the Nolan Arenado incident, it has just been at an absolute rock bottom. And maybe, I would guess, maybe the other perspective on why not you shouldn't tank.
Right.
Imagine you tank and the product is so awful, but you never really get to the heights you want to get to. You never get to that World Series in that tanking process.
Sure.
That would be detrimental.
Sure. And that's the risk you take. I mean, that's the risk you take. But why did you make that risk? To try to win a World Series.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, I don't think anyone's looking at the Rockies going, they are trying to win a World Series right now. They're trying to almost get out of their way, and again, not sign a guy like Brandon Nimmo to block their prospects. So you get that. But what were they doing the last 2 years when it was very evident and very clear that this team was not a contender? That was it. Is they've kind of realized what they should do 2 years late. That's detrimental as well.
That is,
and
yes.
that's really bad. And that's probably why right now you can get really good prices on your tickets over at Game Time Tickets. It's not the hottest, newest
this
site because
real?
we've been using it for a while. You've been using it. I've been using it.
Yeah.
Have you looked at Super Bowl tickets yet on Game Time? They're probably cheaper than anywhere else. We'll say
I'm
that.
kind of afraid to. I'm gonna look them up right now while you're talking.
Yeah, maybe if there's a tailgate, we'll have to see if PHNX, if that crew down there will go ahead and get like a little tailgate. You're near the stadium. You wait until 60 minutes before kickoff, and you get
imagine?
seats for like only 1,000 or so.
Yes.
But it's true. If you wait closer to the start of an event with Game Time tickets, you can get up to 60% less than the face value. I've done it before. Seen shows at Red Rock sold out for $15. Like, it's proven to work. Even if you're getting tickets way in advance, they've got a lot better prices. It's fantastic. 15 million folks have used them. Download the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. Hit the link in our description to save. Susie, how much for one of these Super Bowl tickets?
All right, so I'm looking at single ticket prices right now for Super Bowl 57.
Just to get in the door.
Just to get in the door, the lowest ticket prices, $4,582.
Okay, those are going to come down to like 4,300. No, those are going to come down because it's just like right away people are like, oh my God, I got to get my tickets. All right, put it up. Like, and then someone will be like, well, I'd love to really offload my tickets, 4,400. Well, I want mine to be seen first and be the cheapest, 4,300.
Yeah.
They'll come down. I don't know what it'll be exactly when it ends, but I know Game Time is going to have the best
yes.
situation for it.
Highest
No
ticket
doubt.
price right now, club level, $31,000.
And is club level not the last seat on the Eagles bench? Because I would hope for 30,000+. Last seat on the Eagles bench would be where you get to sit.
I mean, put me in, coach.
Actually, that's a great way to make some extra shells there. If
No,
they ever
yeah,
needed
just
to.
club level right here.
Just one seat there.
Oh, I forgot that when you turn the app, it turns the stadium too.
Look, did you forget where to get Breck Brew? Because I have a great solution. Go
Sometimes
to
I do.
breckbrew.com. Breckbrew.com. They got a Breck locator.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there no matter where you're at in the United States. We've got folks listening all over the world right now.
We do.
Because, again, he said...
That is the power of this podcast.
He said what? Yeah. I think it's more of the power of Dick Monfort, maybe. Maybe it's the two worlds colliding. It's probably a combination of both. And speaking of two worlds colliding, you've got Breck Brew and you've got the Denver Nuggets. The Mile High City Golden Ale Delish.
Yes.
How many of those bad boys did you pound on Friday?
On Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, because I was here for all of the games all weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I actually put like 9-hour days of like hanging out in like all weekend.
And you had some ice cream, some fruity drink or something, right?
The ice cream man. It's a beer from Breck, and it's so good. We're all obsessed with it.
Gulping down that ice cream, man. All right.
Yes, I was like, but it's strong, so I was like, okay, I'll have a sip, but like I will finish this after the show.
The ice cream man is strong, so careful when you sip on
No,
it.
it's like actually an incredible beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Breck does an amazing thing because besides having all Colorado ingredients made here in Colorado, it's made with 100% renewable energy. Check them out, breckbrew.com, and check out Jive Hive. Maybe taking things like to a level which you probably could have never dreamed, because now instead of having to drive down in the snow, it snowed closer to me. It didn't snow quite as much down here in Denver. But if it's a snowy day or it's a 1 degree type day, you don't have to go out. You can go to jivehive.com, JIVEHYVE. I got the Jive Hive wool cap on right now.
Yeah,
it's
you're
fantastic.
matching. Which is also what a genius business idea this is.
It is.
I will never need to leave my house again.
That's it. Yeah. Smoke up, toke up, stay warm with the hat or with Jive Hive. That's the place to go. Look, it's got convenience pricing, right? Because it's not brick and mortar, so they got lower costs. Privacy and security, so you can order. No one knows who you are. No one's using any of that face training technology when you walk into places.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's been going around a lot. But you don't have to worry about that because they'll deliver it right to your home.
Yes.
It's fantastic. They've got locations serving Monument, Falcon, Peyton, Fountain, Woodland Park, Security, Widefield, Aurora, Greenwood Village. Those are all real locations in Colorado.
Some of them sound fake, but they are all real.
They were all real, yes. I'll have to play a game show. Which of these are real locations for Jive Hive? All of them are actually where you could go. Jivehive.com, JIVEHYVE. Go ahead and use promo code DNVR so they can hook you up real nice like.
I like that. I would love a game where you list off Colorado towns and I have to guess if they're real or not.
Moab.
Not Colorado.
Rifle.
Probably.
Parachute.
No.
Yes. You got
Did
2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. That was good.
2 out of 3?
Yeah.
What
Have
did
you never been to Moab?
There's a Moab, Colorado?
No, Moab, Utah.
No, I said list of Colorado towns.
Right. Have you ever been to Moab?
No, I have not.
Utah.
I
Oh.
would not go.
Why not? Moab's great.
I don't know. It was in the news a lot for.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me with Moab. One of the other interesting things that I asked 2 things that were kind of a little bit left of center, but it was what was on my mind in that moment, especially because so much other stuff had been covered. The advertising patches. Said, how are we making some headway on the advertising patches?
A couple of other teams have them already.
Yep.
Not too many.
There was one team, I can't remember who it was, said like, we might not have them this year. We might not get them until next year. I think maybe, again, it's such a newer concept. Maybe wait for some other teams to set the market prices, to figure out what's what.
That's the
Could
thing.
be difficult.
How does a company even know how much this is worth?
Exactly. Yeah. So they're going to kind of wait. Well, I don't know if the Rockies are going to wait, but there was a team said that they might be waiting. Again, it's probably a negotiating ploy. There were a couple of negotiating ploys I was privy to that I sort of have to leave it at that. But nevertheless, the patches will kind of wait and see how that'll go down. Monfort did say that, he sort of wished that was something that the owners had pooled that money together. So there'll be not a patch, but a sticker, a decal on the helmets. That's it's going to be an MLB sponsor, and all the teams will split that. He sort of said, we probably should have done that for the patches too. So you can get it in your market, but then that money still goes into a pool to spread around because again, teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, they're going to get 2-3 times as much than the Rockies will. And so that's, kind of an unfortunate disadvantage.
Yeah.
That, and then I also had to ask about Charlie Blackmon's number 19. We
I'm
talked
so
about
glad you asked because, this is something that we've been talking about. And I liked his answer.
Yeah, he said, that sounds about right. Patrick Saunders followed up, says, well, who actually makes that decision? Is that you? And he didn't say exactly that it was him. He was like, no, it just gets brought up. So it sounds like, he probably has the final word. But at the end of the day, I think, he listens to his team of colonels and what have you, as far as, what should happen. But he said, yeah, he's been tendered second longest tenured Rocky after Todd Helton. He's been, a quirky guy, very emblematic of this team that has played, really long. Now, if Charlie decides he wants to play longer or the Rockies don't have that extension, because I've been saying that was one of my hot take predictions, 20 predictions for 23, that Charlie would sign an extension. So 2-year deal worth, say, $17 million. He's already getting $10 million this year. Give him $7 million next year to, 2 to the young guys. I think that would be super positive. That could more than likely allow him to finish his career as a Rocky. But if he wants to play another year, and let's say he goes to Atlanta, right? Say, I'm from there, or the Rangers even play with John Gray. I was born in the Dallas area. Now he's no longer a career Rocky in that aspect. Just like Cargo is not a career Rocky because he did finish up with the Cubs and with Cleveland there in 2019. And so we'll kind of wait and see if Charlie gets an extension to prevent that. If Bud Black gets an extension, sounds like they'll talk about that in spring. So he's not a lame duck candidate there with 1 year left. Buddy Bell was a guy that didn't really care for kind of, having 1 year left and you go on a 5-game losing streak. Hey, you worried about your job or, have any conversations about what's going on?
You don't want that distraction as a manager.
No, you do not. You do not. So that would be helping the situation out. And it sounds like, we've said it before, Buddy can pretty much be the manager as long as he wants. And so that means if he sticks around for these next group of young guys coming up through the majors, and if he wants to still be here, then it sounds like he's going to be given that opportunity. Yeah.
What a conversation. What a day you had.
It was a lot. It was a lot to take in and go back, listen to the audio 2 or 3 times. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yankeeo Fernandez got a couple shout outs in there as far as prospects. Zach Veen did get a mention. Monfort also said that this was kind of in that conversation about the Marlins Rockies deal that never really got off the ground, that this was a pivotal year for Rodgers. And we've kind of been saying that because, we've seen so many players get traded with 3 years left of team control. It used to be, hey, if you get a guy with 1 year left, you get a guy for 1 year. That's great. That's a year that you're going to have him for 162 games to go to the postseason. 2 years is better. Now teams want a guy for 3 years. Look at case in point, the Sean Murphy deal. Like that was 3 years out. So Rogers is 3 years out right now. They're not going to trade him. They're going to wait until he's 2 years out. I mean, that's what happened with Kyle Freeland, Ryan McMahon, Antonio Senzatella. It didn't happen with Tapia. They ended up trading him. But like those are the things. When you get to the 3 or 2 years left in arbitration, that's when you got to decide, are you going to get off the pot or are you going to actually do the thing you're supposed to do while you're on the pot? Shit's the thing. I was trying to do it without getting into it, and you had that look of like, is this another Jive Hive ad? No,
sometimes I don't know what Patrick's talking about. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that expression.
Oh, I feel like that was invented in Philly.
I'm not familiar with that expression, but that was what an analogy.
I'll say this: the one thing that I thought was, I don't know, refreshing, but you saw his passion because he went off on a rant about Kyle Freeland losing out on the 2018 Cy Young Award. You know, the fact he won 17 games, had a sub-3 ERA at Coors Field. Like, we may never see that happen again. His ERA for the season was sub-3, but then at Coors Field, it was also under 3. You know, goes out and, leads the Rockies, pushes the Dodgers to the brink. Game 163 in the last 8 years, the Rockies have been the only team that have come that close.
Yeah.
Wins the wild card game, unfortunately. He wins it in Chicago or starts that game, does fantastic, shutting the Cubs down there in the NL wild card game in 2018. That's after the votes go in. But you look and say, he wasn't first, he wasn't second, he wasn't third, he was fourth. That's one where if you're holding it against Todd Helton and Larry Walker and saying, they got all of this benefit at hitting at Coors Field, well, then don't the pitchers have a disadvantage? Can we talk about that and give them some credit?
I hate that double standard so much.
Right?
Who was even ahead of Kyle Freeland in that Cy Young class?
I think it was DeGrom. I think he won it that year. But again, you're not going to get the credit that you deserve for that kind of work. And it's an unfortunate double standard.
It's a very unfortunate double standard. It's art. It's impossible here.
Yeah.
It is absolutely impossible to make these people happy.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of the least of the worries that they should be having right now because, again, winning ball games is kind of the way that it is. 2 months until opening day today.
2 months.
2 months until opening day in San Diego at Petco Park. It'll be interesting to see how that all breaks down because we still got 2 months. Pitchers and catchers reporting in about 2 weeks, February 15th.
So soon.
It's going to be pretty exciting. Ragnar, thank you for the comment and caring about what I have to say. We appreciate it. It was a wild weekend for numerous reasons. So this will keep us warm, I think, for a while, at least until opening day. Plenty more comments about the comments.
Comments about the comments. I'm so glad that because you don't always get to hear. You don't often get to hear from the owner of your team during this time of year.
Monfort does speak. He has made himself a little bit more available than some other owners. Obviously, way more than John Angelos of the Orioles, who did it 3 times, once of which was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Didn't want to talk about it, and then twice was to announce a concert. Monfort has made himself, more available than that over the years. So we'll give him credit. But anytime an owner speaks, people listen, and it's always going to be curious. It's always going to ruffle some feathers on one side or another because. We have our opinions on how we would do things or what should be done or an interpretation of something. And, an owner has their own. So that's what can be fun, but also challenging about sports and sports media.
But at least nothing that Dick Monfort has ever said is nearly as bad as the stuff the Reds owner says.
Yes, this is true.
Not even close.
Yeah. Monfort loves Colorado.
Yeah.
He doesn't want the Rockies to move. Like that, for everyone saying, hey, sell the team, he probably wouldn't sell the team just for the simple fact that he'd be worried that somebody might want to move it. Unless it was somebody that was here in Colorado, unless it was like Stan Kroenke or something. But even then, he's moved teams in the past, so there's no guarantee. He's going to pass it down to his kids. That's his right. But he loves his Rockies.
He does.
He does.
He does.
And we love the Rockies.
We do. Look at us. We talk about them every day.
Every day, man. On Twitter is where it's going down. At DNVR_Rockies. At Patrick D. Lyons is where I'm at.
And you can find me at the Susie Hunter. on all platforms.
This has been something.
It's been something, Patrick.
It's been wonderful, but and momentous. But you know what they say about momentum?
Patrick, what do they say about momentum?
It's only as good as your next show. So we will talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the DNVR Sports channel on YouTube.